Okay, so we're here at a section that has kind of held together and is in pretty good shape. This is mountain mint, Picantha muticum, here in front of us. One of the best plants for pollinators. And again, if you're trying to battle invasive species, this is a rather invasive native. And it can kind of push out some of the bad guys and you know, establish a stand of pollinator things. And that's what we've kind of done in this area, is we've gone with what has succeeded here. And so in places like we were looking at before, where some things got beaten up and you know, faded out, what we'll do is we'll come in the fall, we'll take divisions of these plants and we'll fill in some of those holes and hopefully get some plants reestablished in the empty spaces. But if you look down through here, you know, you see not a lot of flowers at the moment, but even the textures are kind of nice and complementary to one another. And so, you know, as you're designing your own native plant garden, think about those things too. It's not only about the flowers, it's also about the look. And the easiest way to sell a native plant garden is by having it look nice. And, you know, like we've been saying, when this was originally put in, a couple years after it had grown in, was a beautiful award-winning site, and unfortunately needs a little help at the moment. So some of the plants that we have in here, like I was saying, this is mountain mint. This behind it here is a type of goldenrod. We have about 100 species of goldenrod that are native to Virginia, and again, really extremely important pollinator plants. Again, this is in bloom when our pollinators are migrating south for the winter, a really good source of energy for them. And again, what we do, well, just to speak a word, a lot of people blame hay fever on goldenrod, but it's not what causes goldenrod, or it's not what causes hay fever. The pollen of goldenrod is really, really heavy. And if you come back here when this is in bloom and look at the ground, you'll see the ground yellow, which is basically the pollen just so heavy that it falls down to the ground. It doesn't become airborne. And a little further down the trail here, we've got some ragweed growing, and ragweed is what causes hay fever, because the pollen is airborne. It's not a pollinator plant. It pollinates by air. And of course, it's not a pretty plant in much anyway. The flowers are green, so you don't really see them. The pollen doesn't feed pollinators. So again, if you want to blame something, blame the ragweed.